What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Michael Experience Podcast. I am your orator and originator, Michael, and these are my thoughts, my life, my way. All right, y'all. So we are definitely in the My Story series where I talk about just things that I've gone through, things that I feel like would be beneficial to others, and hopefully they make you feel seen, heard, and understood in some way. So let's get into the stories of it all. I wanted to kind of talk about this idea of like puppy love or beginning love, that kind of thing where you figure out just who you are when it comes to your love languages and things like that. And so, on a previous episode, I briefly mentioned that I was a teen parent. And so, I wanted to start there because I think that is where my journey for romantic love began to be formed or informed, should I say. So I want to talk about that very formative time where I thought that I don't want to say that I thought I was in love because I don't believe that that's what I thought at the time. I met my daughter's mom as a freshman in high school, and I had dated other girls prior to her because I was getting it as early as I could get it. So I had dated other girls before I dated her, but I remember I was in civics, which is kind of like social studies if you don't know. But I was in civics, and this is back when the girls would write a letter, or the guys would write a letter. Will you go out with me? Yes, no, maybe, whatever. And one of my cousins passed me the note after class and was like, "Hey, my friend wants to get with you or whatever." And I'm like, "Who?" She's like, "Oh, and she sits over, in that row or whatever. She usually sits over there." And I'm like, "I think I know who that girl is, but like I ain't really checked. I wasn't really checking for her. I mean, to be honest, I really did not approach girls. I really just did not. I did not approach girls. Typically, they approach me, and I'm not saying that in any other kind of way, like as a flex or nothing. But it's just kind of how it happened. It's like somebody like, "Oh, I think you cute or whatever." I'm like, "Okay, well, let's switch the digits," and then I got to leave. That was the brat, but I'd be like, okay, cool. So that just kind of how it worked out for me at the beginning. That's not a flex at all. But so I was like, I don't know. So I tucked it in my book, went on about my day or whatever, and just was like, whatever. I'll see her in like 2 days or whatever when we come back to this class. So when I got back to class, I kind of just checked for her to see because like I had seen her before, but I never really paid her any attention. Not like there was anything wrong with her because she was a wonderful, good looking girl, like long, pretty hair, like you know what I mean. I mean, she was a good looking girl. But I just never really paid her any mind. Lovely smile, all that. But I just didn't wasn't thinking about that. And so I finally was like, okay, yeah. So I walked over, gave her the note. I was like, yeah, I will. Like, what you doing? Like, you want to go like skating with us on the weekend or something like that? Because me and my siblings, we used to go skating every weekend. So I think it was something like that. And when I gave it back to her, whatever. Anyway, we kicked it, and it was cool for a while. Like it was. I mean, we dated most of like literally the rest of freshman year all the way through senior year. Honestly, we dated through. I mean, we graduated. Yeah, we dated all through high school. So, I mean, obviously we was cool, but I mean, we ended up having a kid though. She got pregnant when I was 15, and then she had her when I was 16. And I just remember, like, while she was pregnant, though, I remember just being like, yo, like, I don't want to be with this girl. I was like, I don't want to be with her. And I think what was happening was at that particular time, we were just spending a lot of time together and it felt good. And she gave me attention that I really didn't get as the last child. She gave me the attention that I really didn't get. Like, you know what I mean? Like she showered me with gifts. and affection and all of this, right? Like, I'm like, I ain't never had nobody like cater to me like this or whatever. So she was giving me that, and that felt good or whatever. And she was giving me, she was giving me the things that a man might want, you know what I'm saying, a couple times. But we're doing it like on some, we shouldn't be doing it because neither one of us have no house to be doing it in. So I'm sneaking at my mom's house and we doing it, and we sneaking at your dad's house. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're doing it like that. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, I guess there's a little bit of thrill in that. There's a little bit of thrill in that, but also like you're not really spending a bunch of time together. You know what I mean? Like you come together for these moments and it's good for like an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, or whatever it is. And it's like, okay, I gotta go home, curfew. Or you know what I mean? Like I gotta, you know what I mean? You're just not spending time together. And so when she got pregnant, I had to really I had to really start spending time with her during that phase of the situation. And it's not like I didn't want to care for her or anything like that. So it's nothing to do with that. But it had everything to do with like her real personality started showing up. And I mean, like, I ain't even trying to talk bad about her because we cool, but like little mama has some issues. Like, I mean, she already know. We can laugh about it today, but little mama has some issues. And so I remember being like, yeah, no, I don't know about this chick. Like, I ain't trying to be with this chick. And my mom was like, well, she pregnant, so y'all might as well stay together now. And I'm like, yo, like, no. But I remember there was a situation. I remember there was a situation, and we were at my mom's, and she came over that day, and I just was already over everything at that point. You know what I mean? Like being a teenager, having to go to school, now you dealing with this pregnancy stuff. And I was just going through a whole lot, like emotionally, internally, and stuff like that. And I'm sure she was too. So I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm more important or anything like that. But, you know, I gotta do for me what I gotta do for me. But yeah, she just came on some like just it I don't know what it is, but it was on some like possessive, like real crazy entitled type stuff. And I was like, no, 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 no. I was like, no, we can't do that or whatever. Anyway, that ended up being a big heated situation. I ended up putting her out, stuff like that. My mom was like, what is going on here? I was like, I can't be with her. Like, this is not gonna work. And my mom just kept saying, like, well, y'all having a baby, so you should have thought about that before. And I'm just like, okay. You know what I mean? And that's really problematic. That's really problematic to try to make people be together because, they slipped up and, had kids a little bit too soon or whatever. I take responsibility for it or whatever. But what we shouldn't be doing is trying to force people into relationships and marriages with people that they just really are not a good fit with. And the stuff that was going on between us, it would have landed one of us in jail and the other one probably in hell. Well, we probably would have both ended up there, I guess. But I mean, it was just not going to be a good situation for us. And it was just like, well, we'll keep on going and you might as well. And I was like, fuck, like, okay, whatever, whatever, whatever. Now, mind you, y'all, I've never saw myself as a married type ever. Like when you're growing up and like even those earliest moments where they're like, oh, draw a picture of the family you want to have and the career you want to have when you get older. Every picture I remember ever drawing, it was me, my house with a 2-car garage and a dog. It was no kids, it was no wife, it wasn't even no damn husband involved. It was me, me, me. And I think a lot of that is because I felt like an afterthought. Again, I'll mention that. I feel like an afterthought a thought being the youngest child, and then even within that dynamic, it just wasn't great. You know what I mean? So I was like, I never wanted to be married. So I'm with this person that I feel like I'm not supposed to be with. I shouldn't have had no kid with. But I'm at the time I'm saying that. But I'm like, yeah, I know I just know she not the one. I just know she not the one. And I got these people in my ear. And so I was like, okay, cool, like whatever, 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 right? Going down the path of misery, right? For the sake of what people before me told me. And I shouldn't have been listening to their ass no way. They was all poor, piss poor examples of relationship tours and stuff like that. But anyway, and I know that's not a word, but kind of like a connoisseur, a relationship tour. Like they know what to do with relationships. It's probably something better than that. But anyway, we're gonna go with it. So I was like, okay, cool. We'll be together, whatever, whatever. Ended up like staying together, trying to make it work. Things kind of got cool at one point. She wants more kids. I don't want no kids. So I'm like, yeah, no, we ain't gonna do that. Like, you gotta get some birth control. Like, I'm a strap it up because you told me you was on birth control to begin with, and here we are. So I was like, nah, like it was so many things within that was starting to scare me because like after the baby came, like but while she was pregnant, we were still getting it in. I mean getting it in, okay? When they say we can do it anywhere, we were getting it in. But then like the reality set in like after my daughter was born and she's like wanting some and I'm like, yo, like I'm not trying to run up in that again because clearly my pullout game is trash and both of us are fertile in a motherfucker. So I'm like, nah, like I can't like everything is coming back to me like, yeah, no, I know this lady ain't the one. I've been said that. And if I lay up with this lady and have more kids, like that's gonna be too much. Like that's gonna be way too much or whatever. And so I'm like, well, I don't trust you too much. You on birth control, so I'm gonna have to strap it up with you, and you don't like the way that feel. So, but every time I'm doing it, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing this for? Like, why am I laying up with this lady knowing damn well like I don't want to be here, whatever. So I remember her wanting to get married and everybody's talking about getting married. And I'm like, yo, now we are shacking up at this point, y'all, because I got well, her and I both got the apartment together. He's like, hey, we got our kid, we might as well move out. So we got a place together. But I was like, yo, like this just ain't even this is just not what it's just not it. So I ended up buying her like a promise ring because she kept saying like, we should think about getting married and da da da. So I was like, damn, let me get this girl a promise ring and stuff like that. And I tried to get excited about it. I was like, maybe this will be cool, whatever, whatever, whatever. Now I don't know what being in love feels like, and I do know that she felt more for me than I felt for her. I know that for a fact. And I'm not saying I didn't feel anything for her because I did. I mean, I love her even now. But like that thing where that's your person, I was like, nah, it's not her. But these people telling you to do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. Her family, my family, do it, do it, do it. So I was like, okay, like maybe I just don't know what it's supposed to feel like. Maybe I'm just tripping or whatever. Maybe it's like getting scared of having more kids and not being able to care for them. You know what I mean? I'm already working hard. I don't know about this or whatever. But anyway, so I'm thinking like all of this. And so one day, I remember we were, doing the things or whatever. And afterwards, I like she was wearing the ring, and I was just like, "Yeah, no." I was like, "Mm-mm." I was like, "Nah, like, mm-mm." Mm-mm. And so after that, I was kind of like a little distant, and I think I was having like conversations with her about how she felt and stuff like that. And we just kinda, like we had, like, a moment where it was just, like it was, like, rocky as I don't know what, like, you want to be intimate, I don't wanna be intimate in that way, you know, getting the things, and I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not doing that," or whatever, and then finally, I just told her because regardless of what everybody else was saying to me, I had this feeling in my stomach and I was like, it's not fair for me to continue on with her knowing I don't want to get married. Number one, never wanted to get married, but knowing even on top of never wanting to get married, I know I don't want to marry her because I don't feel like she's the one. Like I just didn't feel like she was the one that completed me. I don't know what that should have felt like, but I just knew she wasn't the one that I felt like completed me. So I just was like, yo, like I don't even want to like take you through that or whatever. I don't want to this is just how I feel. Like I don't want to get married and stuff like that. And I think at first she was kind of like, well, we don't have to get married. Like we don't have to get. But I was like, it's more than that though. Like if I stayed, I would just be going through the motions. I was like, it's just more than that though. And I would rather leave than to hurt somebody who didn't ask for it. You know what I'm saying? Even at that tender young age, not even 20 yet. Um, but I knew I was like, nah, I gotta, because her wanting it is that's her own thing, right? But if I go through it knowing what I know and feeling how I feel, that's on me. Like that's on me. And so we broke up or whatever. We messed around a couple times after we broke up, and I was like, okay, let me just because it's gonna be just my luck. Like, yeah, I ain't about to do that. But yeah, so then we finally broke up and I went on about my way. But the purpose of me telling this story is that you have people who will tell you things that they feel like are good for them from their perspective. But here's the thing, nobody can tell you how you feel about a situation. Nobody can tell you that but you. And so while I value people who are willing to give input and who may want to do the right thing or what they feel like is the right thing, you sometimes have to just use your own discernment and your own judgment and feelings to just be like, I'm walking away from the situation. Like, I'm not going to do that to myself, one, and I'm not going to do that to nobody else because it's just not fair. It's just not fair. Like, I could have stayed with this woman, started a whole family with her, and then later on down the line just was like, fuck it, I can't do it no more. Like, I'm gonna do it until I can't do it no more. But what purpose would that be? I done robbed you of being able to create a family and children and marriage with somebody that really wants it with you. Like, I've cheated you out of 5, 10, 15 years of having those moments with somebody who really wanted it with you. Why? Because I allowed somebody else to tell me what I should feel or what my love should look like based on, I don't know, some books they read or some miserable shit they went through in their lives. And those people are not even married. I mean, they not married to the same person anyway. And so that beginning love or puppy love I think was my very first informational moment in how I dealt with romance in the situation because people used to be like, oh my God, y'all are high school sweethearts, y'all were so in love. I was like, no, we weren't in love. We weren't in love. We were entangled very badly and caught up in the sauce for damn sure. I mean, the sauce was getting sticky, icky, but we were not or at least I wasn't in love with her. Right. I don't know that I don't know if we ever even talked about whether she was in love with me or not. I mean, and it's not even important at this point. It's like 23 years ago now, but or 24, I don't know, and I'd had somewhere in there. But um those those moments do really shape and define some things for you. And I think for me, it resurfaced that I did not see myself in a marriage. And it when I walked away from it, I sat with it for a little bit, but then I just quickly moved on because I was like, that's not even what I should be thinking about. Like, I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna do all these things or whatever. Like, I'm still gonna work, take care of my kid, but like I still have a life that I have to live and I still have goals, to achieve and stuff like that. And one of the things that was very important to me was like I have to make sure that my daughter has everything that I didn't have. Every chance, every opportunity, just everything that I felt like was lacking. I just wanted her to have. And man, I did the best I could. But that was important to me. But what was also important is like as I moved through other relationships, I wanted to make sure that if I got with somebody, that it felt real. Like, that is one thing I was like, I have to make sure that when I get into another relationship, I don't get caught up in just the sex. And I don't get caught up in everybody saying that it looks good or people saying like, oh, you should do this and that. I was like, I cannot do that. And I'm so glad that I took that lesson with me because there are times where I've met people and if I came out in public with them or at the point when I allowed my family to meet, because I started dating guys later. Um, they were like, "Oh, well, this and this and that." And I'm like, "No, like I have to judge this for myself. Like I can't let somebody else tell me first what I should be feeling." I'm like, "Nah, I'm not doing that." Like if I have questions that I feel like you can help me with, for sure, and I trust you in that way, I'm gonna come to you. But I started keeping people out of that dynamic of my life because I didn't want people telling me like, "Oh, well, you look like this," or "Oh, y'all remind me of that," or "Oh, y'all should do it." Like, nah, we not doing that. We not doing that. And it became very important for me to like ask questions of my partners, like, or potential partners, to be like, "Yo, like, how do you feel about marriage? Like, how you feel about kids?" Because we had to talk about that too. But like, how do you feel about that stuff? Because I think all of that will define or impact if you guys can move forward or not. Now, see, even then, I wasn't thinking about marriage. I was just thinking of like a relationship. And I didn't know if a relationship should last long or not. Like, I mean, me and this girl dated through high school, but like when it got to guy, I'm like, I don't even know. Like, was that just a one off thing? Because I ain't never really had nothing else. I mean, I messed with some other girls before that or whatever. And I've had some conversations with some men, or whatever at the very beginning. And I was like, I really don't know. But what I was very clear on is walking away from that formative romantic relationship and knowing that I had to have a strong sense of like where I was going and like what I was feeling, you know. And I found it very important, and I still do today, find it very important to discuss those obstacles very early on so that nobody feels played, and nobody feels like their time has been wasted or anything like that, especially when you know. So I'm like, I want to talk about the kids thing because I don't want none. You know what I mean? Like I already have one. That's already done. She's grown now. But I don't want any more children. So like I moved away from that saying to people like, "Yo, how you feel about that?" People to my want to get married. I'm like, "Yo, like what do you feel about that?" Cuz like these are two things that's going to make me go ahead on and walk away from you right now. So, I know that sounds crazy, but thinking about somebody that was like not even 20 coming out of that situation, I moved forward with those things in mind because those were my first informational and foundational moments in romance and love. And I knew that in the effort to not hurt myself and hurt nobody else, we needed to go through the motions. And of course, as things went on with that, I kind of learned a little bit more, right? I learned about, being vulnerable. I had to learn about that, which you'll hear about in, more podcasts as I can and more episodes as I talk about it. But yeah, like I had to learn that that is a very crucial part of it too. Is like feeling like you're with somebody that understands, but not just that they understand, but they accept too. You know what I mean? And they affirm. And that is so real too now, because how many times do you get into situations like I said a moment ago where it gets comfortable or you get lost in the sex of it all or you get lost in just the having a good time of it all, and then before you know it you finally get to this place where you're like, so what is the end game or what is the goal here, right? And if you don't do it, the other person will. And that's what always stuck with me too. Like, yeah, I could go through and we could just, as they say now, go with the flow. But at some point, one of us is going to be looking for the end game, right? Is either what is the end game, end goal, or like the end of this? Like, what are we doing? Are we going to continue to just replay and loop this, or what? Like, are we going to build something? Like, what are we going to do? So that relationship, my very first relationship, made me think about that. And so having an adult child, uh, ah, oh my goodness. It's so interesting to see the love dynamic with that and the relationships that she has, and trying to listen and be somewhat impartial to a degree about what it is that she's experiencing. So it's so interesting that for me at 20, because my daughter's 22, at 22 I didn't have this love bug. I didn't have this insatiable need to be in love, and to declare like ownership, which I don't believe in ownership over people, but to other people, like they're mine, he's mine. I don't have that in that way or whatever. I feel like, you are with me for as long as you are supposed to be, and then you move on to where you're supposed to go. Or if we're here for eternity, which has not happened to me yet, then that's what it will be. But it's so interesting to see my daughter in a different generation seem to be what I would think is like love hungry in a way. And I'm like, what is that? And it could be different for men and women. That now, because I know somebody's like, but Michael, you're a man and she's a girl. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. And it could be very different. But what I'm giving you is kind of what I'm learning or what I've learned through that situation. And to see the love, quest of it all with her, and to try to understand in real time like what that feeling is or what that need is. And to be honest with you, the thing that makes some people just defy all logic and senses and kind of find themselves in a recurring theme in a relationship. So I look at that and I say, I wonder I wonder what that lesson is. Now, I don't want to live that lesson. So, Lord, don't think for a second I want to be looped in a recurring, theme of toxicity and friction with somebody. I don't want that. If love is for me, let it find me and let it be organic and let it be authentic. I don't want to chase some idea of love because somebody told me that's what I should do, or because it's Instagram goals, or because it's I got him and you don't, or whatever that looks like. I don't ever want to have that. But I do want to understand how that works, because at very formative ages where I do feel like people around me were experiencing that beginner's love, that puppy love, I have not. I have not. And I think, there's only one other situation, and that will be the next episode, my story episode, where I will talk about um, being betrayed in a relationship. And the betrayal just stems from me kind of hoping in a way, right, that I would experience the kind of love that I saw everybody else with. And I know you're probably like, well, Michael, didn't you just say you never? I know I've never been on a love quest, but the question of if that could be a possibility for me was definitely there, because I had seen it. I had seen it before. But the reason why I'm correlating that with my daughter is because at her age, I look at her situation and I look at the one situation, the betrayal situation, and I try to understand kind of like how that dynamic begins and continues. Because for me, at that point in my life, I did want to experience like this great love that I never had, this puppy love that I'd seen, so many people, experience. And I did have that thing with the other guy, who treated me very, very well. And so there was a part of me that was like, am I going to experience what everybody else around me has experienced? Like, am I going to feel that way? But that situation just did not turn out well, which is why it would be an episode for itself. So I say this to say that I see this in the world so much. I saw it in my daughter's mom. I see it in my daughter as a 20 something year old. And I still, at nearly 40, have not experienced the level of in love, right? That I just allow it to be just so captivating and so. I still have not experienced that. I've experienced love in relationship, and I think that's great. And I experienced the greatest love that I ever had in a relationship, and I'm very grateful for that, because in my 30s, my early 30s, right, meeting someone who defied just everything that I thought he could be, and showing me love in a very different way. And so that's another episode on its own as well that you will get to hear in this My Story series. But the guy just really flipped everything I thought about love. He literally flipped it on its head. And I realized at that moment that everything that I had seen, my very first, relationship, and even, looking at my family and things like that. And when he and I met, my daughter wasn't grown yet. So and I can't take you there with that timeline. I can give you where I'm at now with looking at her or whatever, but I hope you're following me. But he flipped it on its head for me. And I say it was the greatest love because it grew me the most in that department. Because seeing all of this other stuff, my sister, my brother, my mom, and other family members, cousins, and they're starting families and they're doing their thing, and I wondered if I would always have this disconnect because I could never be vulnerable and soft. You know what I mean? I could never be vulnerable and soft, at least not in my relationships. And I was like, well, maybe that's the thing that is keeping me from feeling all of these tender emotions. Because I was like, I don't know. Like, I want to be crazy about my man. I want to just be like, my man, my man, my man, my baby, my baby. I was like, I want that too. And even though, like, now, right, looking at my daughter as an adult and seeing her be crazy over her man, even though I don't like some of it, it ain't my business though. It ain't my business, nor do I have to like it. It's not my taste buds having to swallow it. But I keep looking at those instances and saying, "Well, what is that feeling to just be so enmeshed in a person that whether they are just good, bad, whatever, I am still madly in love. Like I am in love and excited about it." And I'm like, maybe the lack of vulnerability for me has kept me from being able to experience that. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it was a question, I guess, looming or beginning that as a teenager, and now as a 40-year-old man that has experienced some things, I'm still wondering. So this is my take on beginner's love or puppy love. It probably sounds messy to you all because it is messy. A 16-year-old with a kid is messy. You know, moving in with a woman that you know you didn't want to be with, even though you were young and immature, is messy. Your parents try to push you in that direction. It's messy. Trying to launch yourself into a new world of dating, right? Switching from dating women to men. You know what I mean? As a late teenager going into my 20s and trying to find my way through that, right? Messy. Now, I wasn't in the closet or nothing like that, so don't you all worry because I know you're wondering. But messy, 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 messy. Meeting people thinking it was going to work out. Oh, messy. Thinking somebody looked so daggone good and that we would be so great together. Messy. People looking at me like, who do you think you are coming up in here and snatching up all our good men? Messy. Because that was the thing too. In my quest early on, I wasn't really paying attention to whose man was whose man. I was just trying to figure out like who could be my man and what that looked like. Cause now not only was I contending with, trying to figure out how I felt about love and being in love in general and feeling like I didn't have the thing that everybody else was doing around me. But now I gotta learn to exist in a space romantically, sexually, all the least possible with the same gender. And I'm like, ugh, not ew, but like, this is a job. And I'm just having conversations with people, like trying to feel for it. I'm like, are you the one? No. Okay. Are you the one? No. Are you the one? No. And so I remember early in that journey, people would be like, well, you was talking to what's the name? And then you was talking to what's the name? And I was like, I literally was just talking to them. Now, what I didn't know then was that most of the time when you get into the ubiquitous spaces, they ain't just having friendly conversations, honey. They ain't just having friendly conversations. Fucking. They fucking on the Oh, yes, they are fucking on the first night. Now, listen, I'm nobody to judge when, where, how, what position, flip it up, flip it down, throw it around. I am in no position, nor do I want to be, where I am policing where you put your Tootsie Cat, your Bussy Cat, or whatever else you got that you're selling, okay, or slinging, that has never been my ministry. But to learn that most people thought that I was getting around, and really I was just trying to find my way in a new environment with new people in a different culture that I just hadn't been accustomed to. So when I say finding that beginner's love and that puppy love, it was just messy. Uh, and to hear people's stories, in hindsight, I guess to hear people's stories or post, coming out and figuring out things, I would hear people's stories and I was like, yeah, that just wasn't me. It just wasn't me. And I remember everybody saying, well, that's okay. If you did have a whole phase, we all have one. And I'm like, I didn't have one though. Like, I didn't have one. Maybe I should have had one back then, but I was like, I did not. I was too busy in my mental, in my head trying to figure out like why I wasn't feeling the things that I'd seen everybody, around me feel. Why was I in high school and I wasn't madly in love? Why did I get into, the first relationship with a guy and that didn't seem to be the same thing. I mean, it was something, like I said, you'll hear about that in the betrayal episode, but it wasn't that because I quickly caught on and was like, you know what? I'm gonna be silly for a couple months about this, but I'm up out of here.
And then as I look back even now, because I'm still processing and I'm still wondering if that's something that I need to experience, right? Do I need that puppy love, that kind of hazy thing? And I think what I called in another episode, rose colored and love laced, and I think that happens as an adult, but I think some of that is in that puppy love too, where you're just bright eyed, bushy tailed and just wagging and, wanting to be, the what do they call that? Man's best friend. I shouldn't have said that, but that's the best I could come up with. But looking at all of those things and then kind of coming into now and just kind of looking at my daughter in comparison to that period of my life, a similar period, the similar age, and being like, God, my daughter has it. I don't. I still don't have it. But I don't know if it's something that I need to go through. And maybe I dodged a bullet because that stuff seems to end in strife. Well, the duration seems to continue in strife, but it even seems to end in strife for most people too. I very rarely, again, met star-crossed lovers that were just like, "Yep, this is it, and we love it." I feel like it's always ended in catastrophe, disaster, and confusion. So maybe I dodged a bullet in not having those just lingering and dampening and heavy feelings that were ill informed and perhaps maybe misguided. Maybe I dodged a bullet. Maybe I'm better for it, but it still doesn't stop me from wondering what that was about, or even just inquiring like if it's should have been a part of my journey. So the world may never know. And at nearly 40, I don't think I need to know that part of it. I think the greatest love taught me something about custom love. And I do believe in custom love, and that is love curated for two people, by two people, for just those two people. I want that custom curated love. And so maybe, just maybe, I don't need the puppy love. And the quest for it is no longer there. But I wanted to talk about it because I think it's important as we all question ourselves during our journey. And I think a lot of us will compare and a lot of us will have strong input from people on the outside. And I believe it's important to sit with yourself and really understand your motives and your intentions and figure out from there if it makes sense for you. Because I am so proud that I walked away from not only that first situation, I'm so glad that I walked away from a lot of situations that just did not end well or did not serve me in any real way. So, thank you all for listening. This has been the Michael Experience Podcast. I so appreciate the time and I hope that you all got something out of it. And I will see y'all on the next one. Peace and love, y'all. Bye.